Lightsabers! 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 We talking about the Jedi. Alright, so this is the first time we're going to be talking about, like, a faction in Star Wars, and the Jedi are a good place to start, because there's something that everybody knows, and why wouldn't you know that the Jedi, they have lightsabers? Alright, first, a little history, or actually not much history, because I'm actually going to try to avoid going into history on this series until, like, later. So the Jedi are, by the time of the movies, are around 30,000 years old. And that's really, really, really old. And they've been with the Republic for 25,000 years. So I think you know what the Jedi Order is, right? Like, you know, they have laser swords and they go around, like, protecting people and righting the wrongs of the galaxy and being cool and that. But it's a pinch more complicated. See, Jedi, yes, they are peacekeepers, yes, they are guardians, but they're also like a bureaucratic agency with extra governmental power and barely any oversight, exercising a massive amount of authority over a populace with the ability to abduct children at random and override basic human rights. I know, right? Okay, let me back up. So, the Jedi are like the official organization of Force users. Long story short, in the beginning, when the Force was like discovered and was formalized of like what it was, when a bunch of like different scientists and philosophers and preachers and theologians and history students all came together and they decided that the Force was a thing, it was discovered and such. There were many ideological conflicts over a several thousand year period, and eventually the Jedi won over. And the Jedi are this weird mix of monks and like heroes. So basically, in these early Force talks, the Jedi are what emerged, and their philosophy for the Force shaped how the Force is perceived by the overwhelming majority of Force-wielding beings. And the Jedi saw the Force in a very serene, spiritual sense. And they pushed the idea the Force was about enlightenment. Remember what I said about them being monks? This is what I mean. The Jedi kind of view the Force as a way to transcend yourself. And that has to do with the light. The Jedi are the light side. But the light side doesn't mean good. Like, you think the light side means the Jedi are like, oh, we can't let these people be enslaved, or we need to stop the people from being exploited and defend the weak from bandits. That's not the light side. That's just the Jedi being nice. The light side is about how the Jedi wield the Force. Alright? So, the Jedi are all about enlightenment. They're all about transcendence. So they transcend themselves. Essentially, the light side of the Force is kind of like this. The Force is a stream that you can tap into. It's an energy well, right? And the quality of that energy well, like, the purity of the water coming through your pipe, shall we say, is determined by, the serenity of your mind. Basically, the Jedi think that things like emotions and confusion and acting hastily, they cloud your ability to commune with the Force, and they make you less powerful. When you're freaking out and you're angry and you don't know what you're doing, you can't focus and you can't get into the Force well enough, and it's going to fail. Alright, you're freaking out, you just can't do it right. And so the Force is about focus, it's about purity. And this leads to a lifestyle of things like, meditation and searches for knowledge and being, wise and calm. Jedi prize patience. They prize wisdom and putting stock in beings who have spent maybe even hundreds of years meditating and reading and studying. But they also stab people with laser swords. So where does that come in? Well, the weird thing with the Jedi is that early on in their existence, they decided to, not be weirdo monks living up on some mountain. They decided to join the galactic government. So essentially, early on, Force users figured out that the Force, makes you really good at, well, killing people. And while plenty of Jedi were interested in this, they were just interested in, being enlightened and calm through the Force and kind of achieving a state of transcendence and nirvana. Which is a very Buddhist concept, by the way. Even though Star Wars is a very Western story with a lot of Western ideas, the Jedi do draw a lot from, say, Buddhist and Asian philosophy, which really kind of makes them a lot more mystical to us viewing from a Western standpoint. The Jedi value harmony. They value serenity, and the way they see it, a lot of beings want to disrupt harmony. They want to disrupt serenity. They want to bring more beings into darkness. They want to take advantage of people and, rule through fear. And the Jedi, this kind of hurts their interests. And also, they have a sense of justice. They're, people. They don't want to see people subjugated. And so they decided to fight for what's right. And the Galactic Republic, at this point in time, was very small and was very new. And basically, these two groups joined forces. And because they had a symbiotic relationship, because the Jedi are super wise, and a lot of their members are very old and powerful. And this kind of gave the galactic government a, sort of trump card. And for a while, the Supreme Chancellor was always a Jedi Master. Like, they were integrally fused into the government. They weren't just, people who were sent off to, solve conflicts and, make sure, groups aren't exploited. And in return for this, the Jedi were basically given a whole bunch of resources, and they were left alone. Because, they're trustworthy, because they're these super, enlightened and wise beings. And the government just kind of let the Jedi be, because, the Jedi were very popular. The people loved them, because, they helped the people, and so they, people didn't mind that the government gave them so much power. Where the government and the Jedi came into conflict was warfare. So, there are many, many wars that the Republic engaged in over its time, and the Jedi fought in some and avoided others. The Jedi would fight if there was a great justice to be righted. Like if, they were fighting an empire that, slavery, they'd fight to, free the slave. But the Jedi hate death. They hate killing because, killing robs beings from being in the Force, and the Force is all. By tapping into the Force, we achieve transcendence. That's the whole point of being a Jedi. You achieve transcendence. You are more than yourself by tapping into the Force. You reject your personal, private emotions and doubts and ignorance and tap into this all-knowing, all-powerful body of the Force. And they call that enlightenment. In a lot of wars and a lot of battles, regional conflicts, the Jedi say, "We out." And the galactic government didn't really have a way of coercing them because, it's hard to kill Jedi. And I need to stress that, Jedi come in all shapes and sizes. Like there's, monk Jedi that just, read and study and meditate. There are Jedi who are great at combat and tactile stuff. There are Jedi who are empaths and they're great at, being therapists and helping tap into others and also sort of powering people up using their thoughts and connecting to each other in the Force. That's called a combat trance. It can be used to inspire whole fleets of soldiers and make them concentrate more and, not have any fear. Because you banish fear. Because fear leads to the dark side. Because if there is light, there has to be the dark. Okay? Remember, the Jedi view themselves as ridding themselves of gunk, of junk, of bad stuff. That emotion and attachment and rage leads you to being clouded. And anything that isn't their way needs to be removed. That's what they teach their Padawans from birth. Now, Jedi, use their government, sponsored abilities to track Force-sensitive children, and they take them from their families. Now, it's not just like snatching. It's not the series never really goes into heavy detail like the paperwork you fill out, but essentially, parents are promised that their child will become a Jedi and will grow up and be cared for. And the weird thing of being a Jedi is that even though you have everything you ever need, it's not like you're living in the lap of luxury, even though you have access to billions and trillions of dollars of taxpayer paid ships and housing and food and the highest technology of the day, archive stuff, and you can go anywhere and you're sent on missions, because Jedi live personally very aesthete lives. They don't own much. They have the robes on their back and they have a lightsaber which they built. Those are powered by kyber crystals, by the way. They kind of go into that in Rogue One. So yes, Jedi take children, they raise them to be younglings. The younglings become Padawans, who are paired up with a knight or a master to be trained. Then they grow up, they go through the trials, become a knight, and then some of the knights become masters, and the masters, lead the order. So I said that the Jedi were really hesitant to get into wars, right? Into conflicts where both sides are kind of equally in the wrong. There is an exception to this, and that is the Jedi's weakness: the Sith. Now, the Sith are obviously going to be the subject of our next episode, but just know that the Sith tend to hit a nerve on the Jedi, because the Sith, as we will see, represent the opposite side of everything the Jedi believe in, and thus the Jedi kind of believe that they need to be purged from the galaxy. Now, the Jedi have reasons for doing this, because, the Sith do kill them on sight and want to purge them too, so, the Jedi, they need to defend themselves, and supposed to try and wipe out the thing that's, trying to wipe you out. But the thing is, their single-minded desire to destroy the Sith often opens the Jedi Order up to weakness. Alright? Because remember, Jedi are about purity and, clear-headedness. So you get rid of the gunk. Sometimes that kind of involves genociding a whole race of people. Yeah. Weird, right? And the strange hypocrisy of the Jedi, which is something we're going to get into in our final episode of this season of Star Wars, episode 10, or episode 4 right now, is that the Jedi say they're without fear, but they do act in fear. Because when it comes to dealing with the Sith, there is no middle ground. There is no waiting around for it. The Sith must be destroyed. Because they know they're a threat. Because they know the Sith are stronger than them. We'll get into that later. But for now, I want to leave you with the Jedi Code, which kind of summarizes their philosophy. And I want to take us out of the gutter. I've kind of been showing the bad side of the Jedi and can bring us, back to how cool these guys are. The Jedi Code is such: there is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. We are all the Force. Everything is the Force. It will supply us all the knowledge of both the past and the future. And if we can just rid ourselves of ourselves and tap into the Force and become one with it, as they say, not even death can shackle us. And if you watch the movies, you know the Jedi were right. Their path allows them to not fear death, which is an advantage we'll see that they have over the Sith. In their path, they don't fear death. Because when you die, you go to the Force. And the Force is everything they want to be. That's it for this episode. Ask questions in the comments section. Follow me on Twitter. Hopefully you're starting to enjoy this. Hopefully it's starting to get a little more interesting. Next time we're going to talk about the Sith, and really I'm super pumped because honestly the Sith, I talk very passionately about the Jedi, but I'm going to let y'all know a secret. I'm a dark side boy for life, and we going to get fun. Alright, so see you then.